It's interesting how certain crucial business functions, well, they've often lived in their own worlds, haven't they? Almost like separate subjects. Think about internal controls and risk management. For ages, they were treated as pretty distinct, often siloed areas, but something really transformative is happening now. These worlds, they're converging, and it's creating this dynamic, technology-powered framework that's just, well, essential for modern governance. So today we're going deep into this new nexus, the really powerful integration of internal controls and enterprise risk management. Our mission, really, is to give you a shortcut, a way to grasp this critical shift. We're pulling the key insights from the foundational frameworks from KOSO, that's the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. Specifically, we're looking at their Internal Control Integrated Framework, ICIF, and their Enterprise Risk Management Framework, the one integrating with Strategy and Performance, ERM. We want to show you how they work together, why this connection is basically non-negotiable now, and crucially, how technology is making it all happen.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is how this integration goes beyond just efficiency or ticking compliance boxes. It's actually shifting these functions. They're moving from being seen as just costs, compliance costs, to becoming actual strategic drivers, engines for competitive advantage. So yeah, we'll explore the core ideas, the principles, but also the practical stuff, how this actually helps build a more resilient, more agile organization. It's about getting ahead, not just keeping up.
Okay, let's lay the groundwork then. We're talking COSO, the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations. These folks are basically the gold standard setters globally for internal controls, ERM, even fraud deterrence. Their guidance says, well, it's fundamental if you're dealing with modern governance. But the real story for us today is how their two big frameworks are coming together. Let's maybe start with ICF, the Internal Control Integrated Framework, first out in '92, right? Then a big update in 2013. Instead of just calling it a guide, maybe think of it as the operational blueprint. It's designed to help organizations fundamentally do things right on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. ICIF defines internal control as a process. It's driven by the entity's board, management, other people. And it's designed to give reasonable assurance about achieving objectives. And that term, reasonable assurance, it's really key. It means being confident in your system, sure, but also realistic. No system's totally foolproof. And when we talk objectives, ICIF breaks them down. Three main types. You've got operations objectives, that's about effectiveness, efficiency, protecting assets. Then reporting objectives, making sure information, internal, external, financial, non-financial, is reliable, accurate. And finally, compliance objectives, sticking to laws and regulations. And that bucket has gotten a lot more complex since 1992, that's for sure.
Right, so it's like the foundational operational hygiene, keeping the house in order. Now, that 2013 update for ICF, you said it was significant, more than just a tweak. What made it such a game changer for governance?
Oh, it really was. The 2013 update took principles that were kind of implied before and made them totally explicit. Now there's 17 clear principles. They're organized under 5 components, things like control environment, risk assessment. And here's the kicker. For an internal control system to be considered effective, all 5 components and all 17 principles have to be present and functioning. That shifted ICI from being maybe more conceptual to a really rigorous, verifiable standard, which is absolutely vital for things like, say, Sarbanes-Oxley's Section 404 compliance for public companies. It gave everyone a much clearer roadmap.
That clarity, that verifiability really does make a huge difference.
Right.
Okay, so if ICIF is the robust framework for doing things right operationally, how does KSO's ERM framework fit in? How does it provide the strategic intelligence, help organizations figure out how to do the right things? Let's look at enterprise risk management integrating with strategy and performance. That also had a big update, right, in 2017 from the original 2004 version.
Yes, and the 2017 ERM revision was, well, it was quite a shift, a departure, really. It reflects just how complex business is now. The core idea is this. Every organization exists to create value for its stakeholders. Simple enough, but in going after that value, it will face risk. It's inevitable. So ERM reframes risk. It's not just something bad to avoid defensively. It's a fundamental thing to consider when you're trying to create, preserve, and realize value. It actually helps organizations make strategic choices about which risks are, frankly, worth taking to hit their goals. It's not about avoiding all risk. It's about smart risk-taking.
That's a pretty profound mental shift, isn't it? Moving from just defense to actively choosing risks for strategic gain. But practically speaking, How tough is that for established organizations to really embrace that shift, move from just avoiding problems to actively chasing value through risk?
Oh, it's incredibly challenging. And honestly, that's where the integration piece becomes so critical. The biggest hurdle is usually culture. Getting everyone from the board right down to the front lines to see risk not just as a compliance headache, but as a strategic tool. The ERM framework itself, with its 5 components like governance and culture, strategy and objective setting, it provides a structure for that shift. It helps organizations think systematically about how risk impacts everything: strategy, objectives, performance measurement. Without that strategic view, controls can just feel like, well, a bureaucratic checklist.
Okay, so this is really where it clicks together. A lot of people, maybe they still see these two frameworks as, I don't know, competing or just separate things. But you're saying the relationship is symbiotic. It's not choosing one or the other. It's about integrating them for truly better governance. But if they're so complementary, where do the friction points usually show up when an organization actually tries to blend these philosophies in the real world?
That's a great question because, yeah, they are complementary, but their different focuses can definitely create some friction. ICIF, it's often driven by audit, by compliance teams. The focus tends to be very granular on process control. ERM, on the other hand, usually involves leadership, strategy folks. It aims for that bigger picture, that forward-looking view of uncertainty. So the friction happens when these groups aren't really speaking the same language, maybe, or they don't have a shared view of how their individual efforts actually ladder up to the big strategic goals. Integration helps build that bridge.
That distinction you made earlier, ICI helps you do things right. ERM helps you do the right things. It really makes it click for me. It's almost like ERM gives you the strategic map, helps you pick the destination, decide what adventures or calculated risks you're up for, and then ICIF provides the detailed GPS, the sturdy car, the controls to make sure you stay on track and, don't crash, one without the other. Well, you're either wandering aimlessly or meticulously managing a journey to nowhere.
Precisely. And when you genuinely integrate them, the benefits really ripple through the whole organization. For you, the listener, this means things like enhanced risk identification and assessment. ERM gives you broader tools for spotting strategic threats, while ICIF ensures you have the structures to assess and control those risks operationally. It leads to improved information and communication. Both frameworks stress this, making sure risk data flows effectively so people can act faster. And maybe most importantly, it helps foster a risk-aware culture, where managing risk isn't just one department's job. It becomes everyone's responsibility, top to bottom. That's a huge shift.
Okay, that sounds incredibly powerful, but it also sounds incredibly complex to manage. The old ways, manual surveys, endless spreadsheets, reports looking backwards, they just can't handle this kind of integrated, proactive approach, can they? This is where technology really becomes the hero, right?
Oh, absolutely. This whole shift, this move towards integration, it's fundamentally enabled by technology, period. The effective meshing of these CISA frameworks, it's really powered by modern governance, risk, and compliance platforms, GRC platforms. They are genuine game changers.
Like GRC platforms. So these are the engines making the integration actually work.
Yeah.
I've heard names, Audit Board, Metric Stream, Logic8 thrown around. Are those the kinds of unified systems we mean? The ones breaking down those old silos between risk, compliance, audit?
Exactly those kinds. Think of them as the central nervous system for risk and compliance. A single source of truth. They pull together all the scattered processes, systems, data into one place. And they bring some key features, like automated workflows that drastically cuts down the manual slog for things like control testing, gathering evidence, scoring risks. It frees up people to think strategically. They offer centralized data repositories. All your risk registers, policies, control documentation, everything in one secure, consistent spot. Essential for audit trails. And for leaders, dynamic dashboards and reporting. Real-time visuals, heat maps, graphs. They let executives see the picture quickly, make faster data-backed decisions, and drill down where needed, instantly.
So it's more than just centralizing stuff. It's about being deeply proactive, moving beyond just reacting when something breaks to actually anticipating problems using continuous monitoring, predictive analytics, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly that. Manual checks, point-in-time assessments, they're just not enough in today's world. The risk landscape changes too fast. Continuous monitoring isn't a nice-to-have anymore, it's a necessity. It gives you insights before things blow up. And this is where automation and AI really shine. Automation can constantly monitor controls, test them, flag issues in real time, cuts down human error massively. Then you have predictive analytics. using AI and machine learning to chew through massive data sets, spot patterns, and actually forecast potential risks. Think predicting supply chain hiccups or spotting weird behavior in your network before it becomes an incident. This also enables dynamic key risk indicators, KRIs. They act like an early warning system, tracking live data, adapting as risk levels change, giving you a heads up.
Okay, it's clear that internal drivers' best practices, competitive edge, are pushing this integration. But there's also a big external push happening too, isn't there? Something making this integrated continuous model even more urgent for a lot of companies.
There definitely is. The PCAOB, that's the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, the ones who oversee public company audits, they've adopted a brand new quality control standard, QC 1000. It's set to take effect December 15th, 2025. And it's a major move away from a sort of rules-based checklist approach towards an integrated risk-based one for audit firms. It specifically requires these firms to proactively find and manage quality risks within their own practice.
And part of that new standard I read mandates a continuous feedback loop for improvement. ICWIS. That sounds like it slots perfectly into this modern ERM thinking we've been discussing, this integrated, continuous way of managing risk and controls. It really forces the issue for audit firms, gives them a strong external nudge to adopt this model right now. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? This deep dive into CISO's ICIF and ERM, their integration, it shows this isn't just about checking boxes anymore, right? It's really about building an organization that's resilient, agile, genuinely ready for whatever the future throws at it, one that can actually thrive on complexity.
Absolutely. And to make that happen, we've sort of laid out a roadmap for you. First, embrace an integrated philosophy. Really say ICIF and ERM as two sides of the same coin, working together. Second, invest in a unified technology stack. Use those modern GRC platforms we talked about. Centralize, automate. Third, implement continuous monitoring. Shift from looking backwards periodically to looking forwards constantly. Be proactive, predictive. And finally, maybe the most crucial, cultivate a risk-aware culture. Make risk management part of everyone's job, embedded in the company DNA top to bottom.
It's a transformation, really, turning risk management from the defensive cost center it often was into a genuine strategic engine, a driver for competitive advantage. It's just a fundamental change in how companies can create and hang on to value in this complex world.
So, maybe a final thought to leave you with. If this integrated, tech-enabled approach to governance and risk isn't just best practice anymore, but really a necessity, maybe even a competitive edge, what outdated operational assumptions might you still be holding on to in your own work, your own organization? Assumptions that could maybe benefit from a similar nexus of integration and technology.
Definitely something to think about as you navigate your own professional world. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.